Welcome back to 7 Moons Astrology. My name is Sarah Kirby, and this is a video for Mercury retrograde, this time happening in the signs of Libra and Virgo. This is a common planetary transit happening anywhere from 2 to 3, sometimes 4 times a year, and it seems to be the transit that everybody knows about regardless of if they follow astrology or not, because people love to blame Mercury retrograde when life goes awry. So we'll talk about all the potential mishaps and the things to look out for under a retrograde, as well as the potential benefits of a transit like this and the way that it can really serve us when we choose to come from that perspective. We'll cover key dates and what the archetypes and symbolism of Libra and Virgo will indicate for this Mercury retrograde, as well as a 12-sign forecast so that you can get the details specific to your sign by sun, moon, or rising. Okay, so let's get into it. What the heck is a retrograde? Now, this applies for any planet in retrograde. Retrograde is a function of apparent motion and the movement of a planet in the sky from our perspective on Earth. Now, when we say as astrologers that planets are moving backward in the sky or they are going in reverse motion, of course, we don't mean to indicate that a planet actually stops in its orbit and then starts going the other direction. This is physically impossible. What we mean to say is that it appears that way from Earth. When astrologers are tracking planets with the unaided eye in the sky, as we did thousands of years ago, we would watch the motion of a planet moving through the zodiac on the ecliptic from the perspective of Earth. Okay? It would track on the horizon in a counterclockwise motion, and then we would notice a planet slowing down. So just before Mercury goes retrograde, it seems like it's moving slower or covering less ground, less sky in the amount of time than it normally would, until the point at which it seems to stop and freeze and stay in the same section of the sky for quite some time. Now that is what is known as stationing retrograde, and then it starts to cover the ground that it already covered before, moving reverse, retracing its steps, going backwards in the sky. This is because Earth is overtaking the planet in its orbit and creates the geometry necessary for it to look like the planet is moving backwards. It's just a function of apparent motion. So in astrology, when we have a retrograde with Mercury, this is said to indicate some kind of disruption to mercurial energy. So one way you can think about this is keywords reverse, revise, revisit, redo. Reverse, revise, revisit, redo. That's what a Mercury retrograde is all about. Now, it will affect specifically the area that Mercury rules, the archetypes of Mercury. Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo, so both those areas of life are impacted. So everybody is going to be affected in these areas regardless of their signs. Some signs will feel it more intensely than others, but everybody will notice mercurial themes of life being impacted by the retrograde. Mishaps, disruptions, redo, revisit, revise. Sometimes undo is another one, or change, because Mercury is a mutable planet, indicating change. So let's talk about the Gemini area of life. Well, Gemini rules transportation. So your car breaks down, the windshield cracks, you get a flat tire, there's lots of traffic, your commute is interrupted, you are rerouted on your way to work, your travel plans change, your flight is delayed, you get in fender benders, especially with Mars in Gemini. Same thing applies to trains, to cycling, to any way that you get around. This can be very frustrating, but if you know it ahead of time, then you know what to look out for and hopefully can help you laugh. Because Mercury rules getting around and moving around, when those things experience delays or cause you to revisit, redo, revise, or undo or change something, Mercury's energy is just being messed with by the retrograde. It's inhibited or disrupted. Now, Mercury, through its association to Gemini, is also about communication. So miscommunication and misunderstandings with people. This is especially true this time in the sign of Libra, because Libra is about relationships and one-to-one connection. So it can also lead to frustration and conflict this time around, which is not necessarily always the case because Mars is in the sign of Gemini. Mars is the planet of conflict. Okay? So where you might normally see kind of brain fog, forgetting things, not being sure what you were doing, walking into a room and suddenly you don't know what you're doing anymore, or not thinking straight, reading something and needing to reread it again because you didn't even integrate it. All of those things can happen during a Mercury retrograde. You might not notice it. Some will, some won't. And this time there could be kind of miscommunication that leads to arguments just because Mars is in Gemini right now. Now, Gemini is also about siblings and extended family, so you might notice that type of conflict or miscommunication occur with those people, with your neighbors, with people close to you in your immediate community. Gemini is also a lot about business, sales, trades, doing business, contracts and agreements, especially with this Libra influence, which also has a lot to do with contracts and agreements. These things can fall through. You can miss stuff in the fine print. If you make deals around this time, it's said that it will always come back around to bite you. So if you have to sign a deal or make a deal or do some important business, it could be that later on you come to regret it, or you miss some details that you then have to later revisit. So it's not always the case that you're going to have to revisit right now. Sometimes things that you start during the Mercury retrograde will reveal themselves later when Mercury is direct, where it's like, I missed that during the retrograde, and now I have to address whatever has come up. That's pretty common in the business world or with any kind of business deals or agreements that we make during this time. Typos and mistakes, very common in a Mercury retrograde, especially for me, who loves to make typos on my Instagram and piss off all my Virgo friends. And then technology issues and interruptions, especially if it has to do with any kind of communication-based technology. So the internet, social media, Wi-Fi, that sort of thing, cell phones, things that help us to connect and communicate. All of those things are Gemini, Mercurial ruled, and you might experience haywire problems with your technology during the Mercury retrograde. Now, Mercury is also about Virgo. Mercury rules the sign of Virgo. It's also exalted in the sign of Virgo. So this area of life is also impacted. Virgo is a lot about routines, schedules, plans, and work and collaborative projects. So at work, projects you were working on get delayed, or they have to be redone, or something emerges where you have to reorder everything that you've done before. You have to undo work from the past and move in a different direction because of information that has come to light or because of disagreements that people have at work. Your day-to-day plans and schedule keep getting interrupted, especially with Mars and Gemini. You might set up with one objective for the day and then find that everything gets interrupted and changed around and you have to redo something that you did before. This is the Mercury retrograde. Work gets put on hold. Your routines and things that you were trying to start at the new moon in Virgo get interrupted, especially if it has to do with your day-to-day schedule or your health routines or your work. It can be hard to get people to agree to plans, to timing, to make plans for the future, and people could cancel on you. This is increasingly likely during the Mercury retrograde. So if you're saying, well, I need to move, I need to do this, can you agree to be here at such and such time? People kind of just be like, I don't really know, I have to get back to you. It can be hard to nail things down with a firm date, and if you do, and it's for the future, you might find that once it's direct, things have to change around again. There's also the impulse to reorganize, to clean, to declutter, and to reorder our lives. So you might see people, especially with this Libran influence, which is a lot about aesthetics, wanting to like redo the way that they dress, redo their closet, create more order, and clean things out. Because Virgo is a lot about creating order out of chaos. So we might need to focus on projects we've done before in this regard to restore a certain sense of order and make ourselves feel more in balance. So a lot of that is going to get emphasized when Mercury goes into Virgo specifically, but just before that, we've got some Mercury retrograde in Libra energy. So before I go and explain that in detail, let's stop and talk about the dates and important time periods to be aware of with this energy. So starting off, we had Mercury retrograde pre-shadow on August 20th of this year. What the heck is a pre-shadow? Well, pre-shadow period is the point in time in which Mercury is transiting through the section of the sky over which it will later retrograde. So it's hitting those degrees that it's going to trace back over. And we can begin to see some remnants or some intimations of the retrograde energy as soon as that pre-shadow energy begins. So that was on August 20th. So if you've noticed having to redo things, troubles with your car, delays and interruptions, general confusions, wanting to reorganize, and it's been happening since August 20th, you've already been feeling the pre-retrograde energy. And then on September 9th, just a couple days ago, Mercury stationed retrograde. This station is the point in time in which Mercury appears to be still or completely halt in the sky because we are overtaking it at that point. We're in alignment with it and we're going to overtake it. So it looks still. It looks like it's not moving. And from that perspective, in astrology, we see the station retrograde as an increasingly concentrated energy. So we notice a lot of the potent retrograde influence right around the time that it's stationing. So this is maybe more than likely the time in which you could have trouble with plans or cars or whatever. Okay, or miscommunications with people that you love, especially during that full moon in Pisces that we just had on September 10th, a day later. If any of you experienced miscommunications or changes in plans or issues with your cars that, or transportation or travel plans that then resulted in some very emotional experiences, that was the full moon in Pisces with Mercury retrograde. Now, after that, Mercury is going to, so all of that is happening in the sign of Libra. The pre-shadow period and the station retrograde in the sign of Libra. What does that mean in the sign of Libra? Libra is about one-to-one relationships and agreements. It's about balance, harmony, fairness, and justice. So on the collective level, we could notice revisions of laws, changes in laws, redactions of laws, politicians shifting things around, going back on their word, changing agreements, people renegotiating deals, business deals, contracts of any kind, people going back on things that they said they would follow through with, people changing the agreements and the dates. And Libra is also about one-to-one relationships. So this could be about you reevaluating relationships in your life. What do I want out of this romantic relationship? How is this friendship feeling to me? Is it supportive to me? Is it fair? Is it harmonious? Am I getting what I need in this relationship? Is this person getting what they need? Is this really what I want for the future? You might also see people from the past that you used to have a close relationship with come back around, and it could be an opportunity to reignite a connection with them or choose whether or not you want to carry that into the future. Mercury retrograde doesn't make a claim over whether or not someone from the past coming back around should be in your life. That's where your free will comes in, but you get to decide, and Mercury retrograde helps you reflect and revisit what that past relationship was like and what you can do differently or how you want to move forward this time around. You might be asking yourself, how to create more fairness in your relationships or be very acutely noticing where things feel unfair or imbalanced so that you can create more reciprocity. And this isn't just marriages, but it's also very close one-to-one friendships and business deals that you have or business partnerships that you have at work. Aesthetics. Libra is also a lot about aesthetics. So beauty and art and the way that we dress and makeup and hair and the way that we present ourselves, the way that things look, our home. So Libra is about an impulse for beauty. And we might notice that we find that things that we once thought looked good, we don't think they look good anymore. We might have an impulse to redesign our wardrobe, remake our look, get a haircut, redo something aesthetic having to do with our lives. And then Mercury is going to move into Virgo. So I think these two are connected where we're trying to order things because order would look more beautiful, something like that. Now, let's go back to the dates really quick because Mercury will go Cazimi in retrograde on the 23rd of September at 1:49 a.m. What is Cazimi? Cazimi is the point in time in which Mercury is exactly conjunct with the sun, meaning it's exactly in alignment with the sun from the perspective of Earth, dead center of the sun, sitting at the seat of the sun. This is the point in time astrologically in which we can have really big clarity or insight about something that we've been feeling indecisive about. It's happening at the first degree of Libra. So this is a point in time in which we get, I think, an aha moment about the direction that we want to proceed right before we move into Virgo. Now it's at 1:49 a.m. in this very short period of time that it's exact. You don't have to be awake for it. It can come to you in a dream. It can come to you in a meditative state. If you are awake, it can come to you while you're journaling. So it'd have to depend what time zone you're in. It's 1:49 a.m. Central Daylight Time. And you can notice that happening within maybe a 4-hour window of that exact point. And I think that that is about resolving indecision, because Libra is associated with seeing all your options and not being really sure which way you want to go. And then just a couple hours later, Mercury will move back into the sign of Virgo. And after that point of clarity, after that point of decision, it feels like now I have the direction that I want to move. I'm going to get the details in order. I'm going to redo the work accordingly with this new decision. I'm going to remake my plans for the future. I'm going to get things in alignment. I'm going to clean out this clutter. I'm going to order things. I'm going to organize and get everything back on track. And I'm putting in work in areas that I might have invested into before, but I know that it's important to redesign, to rebrand, to revisit, to do all of this at this moment, because it's going to make it better for the future. This could also be about, I know what I want to do regarding these relationships. I know now what would feel more fair and reciprocal to me. And now that I have that idea, I can communicate those details and make a plan so that I can proceed accordingly. That's what I think this Mercury retrograde is really all about. Now, the entire time that Mercury is transiting in retrograde, it is in opposition to Jupiter, which is also retrograde in Aries. It's holding this opposition 180 degrees, where you can think of that as if my head is the earth, Mercury's here and Jupiter's here, okay? So they're exactly opposing. And that is, I think, a supportive, benefic influence, because Jupiter is really all about expanding our conscious awareness and helping us to grow more wise through experience. So sometimes problematic situations come around, but the end goal is that we now know more than we did before in a way that really helps us feel more expansive. Mercury retrograde opposing Jupiter in retrograde in Aries, I think, describes what some of the element of indecision is in the beginning, or where we are having a lot of options, or the things that we're revisiting and toiling over and thinking about and reflecting on. And this is a problem or an archetype or symbolism of needing to go really fast and make decisions really quickly and solve problems right now and move straight to solution, versus keeping everybody happy, being open to compromise, collaborating, wanting to keep the peace. Libra is about peace, Aries is about solving problems right this second, okay? So there's some kind of dichotomy there where we are trying to figure out how to start something new and do it right now and make it aesthetic, make it balanced, make it harmonious, make it beautiful, make it serve the people's needs, keep everybody happy. How do I, get what I want and what they want and do it right this second? There's some kind of process going on inside of us where we're trying to figure out those things. And then it could also be about doing something new and questioning whether or not we really want to redo it based on an issue of aesthetic, or based on an issue of fairness, or based on a principle of doing what is right and just, or based on a principle of being agreeable with other people and compromising. So that's a key detail that I think matters, because it helps create context over what you could be mulling over. Now, then Mercury will be in the sign of Virgo, later stationing direct on October 2nd, meaning it appears to halt in the sky again before moving in its regular motion. And then until October 16th, it will be in post-retrograde shadow, meaning it's covering the ground that it just retrograded over until it can get back to new territory. So after October 16th, you should notice that things feel much more buttoned up. You should notice that things feel much more orderly and harmonious, and things should feel like they're on track again. And then we will quickly move into an eclipse season, but that's a different video. And that's really what this retrograde is all about. So you might still notice some retrograde happenings after the official retrograde is over. because of that post-retrograde shadow, the 2nd to the 16th. So we're in the clear after the 16th. Those basic significations apply to everybody. Now we'll get into the 12 sign forecast so I can tell you what extra layers to fold in based on your sun, moon, and rising sign. So make sure you listen to all three. With your sun and your rising sign, you could see those things very evidently and literally play out in your life. And with your moon sign, you might notice that it applies to your emotional landscape or your subjective experience of reality, things that you're thinking and feeling about internally, or it could apply to your home, family, or parents. That's what the moon is all about. Okay, so use the timestamp at the video, the time bar, to click to your signs, and I'll see you in the next video. So for Aries, for you, the Mercury retrograde aspects your 7th and your 6th house. First in the sign of Libra in your 7th house, then in the sign of Virgo in your 6th house. So from about August 20th during the pre-shadow period all the way up till September 23rd, you will notice 7th house Libra themes. And then from about September 23rd all the way through October 16th, you'll notice more 6th house Virgo themes. So let's talk about what those things are. In addition to everything I gave in the intro, which will impact you, first starting with the 7th house Libra, that first chunk of time, you may notice yourself reconnecting with people from the past. Exes reach out, you connect with old friends, old relationships that you have but haven't been in contact with in a while. You may notice that you are getting in some kerfuffles or miscommunications in those relationships. If you are involved in any kind of business deals that rely heavily on agreements and contractual obligations, you can notice some changes and amendments to that area of life. You may also notice that your partner changes their aesthetic or begins to style themselves differently or begins to look more like they used to in the past or choose to present themselves in a way like they did in the past. This is what that first chunk of time will be about for you. Then you might also find yourself reevaluating connections from the past and deciding whether or not you want to reach out to somebody, thinking about connections that you've had in the past so that you can learn from patterns that demonstrate there, and that sort of thing is all possible. And you may notice your partner, if you're in one, doing the same thing. This is a common influence for trying to rekindle something with somebody from the past as well. Then in that second chunk from September 23rd to the 16th, when Mercury's in Virgo, you might notice yourself having your schedule all messed up, having to redo work that you've done before, plans change at work, people come to issues arise, and then you've got to adjust the schedule or timeline for your project. You've got to redo some work you did before because some information was missing or something is incorrect. Then you might also find that your schedule keeps getting interrupted, so you set out plans for this certain day and everything gets thrown awry, or you have to go down a different direction. This is a time that is kind of unpredictable in that sense, and so the goal is to kind of go with the flow rather than stick rigidly to whatever you thought the objective was supposed to be, because it's a mutable energy about changing and adapting. You might also notice yourself picking up health routines or fitness routines that you used to be involved in before. So maybe if you used to enjoy walking, you might start to do that again, or you could find yourself changing your route for your run. That kind of thing is all common with a Mercury retrograde in the 6th house. So for Taurus, the Mercury retrograde period is aspecting your 6th and your 5th houses in Libra and Virgo. So first from August 20th all the way up till about September 23rd, from that pre-shadow period till it moves into Virgo, Mercury is going to be transiting your 6th house in retrograde. This is a period of time in which work plans will change. Something comes up where you have to redo work that you've done before. Issues arise where you decide that you don't like the way this looks anymore and you need to redo things, or somebody's not happy, and in order to keep them happy, you have to change what you were originally planning on doing. If you've got plans for the future, this is when you decide that they're out of balance, and to take into account the perspectives of other people, you reevaluate and you replan things that you've had before. Your day-to-day schedule keeps getting kicked up and messed up, so anytime that you think that you're going to be doing one thing, something comes around where somebody needs something from you, and in order to be agreeable, you have to change what you are doing, and it messes up your whole day, and this is okay. It's to be expected. Mercury is a mutable planet that wants you to adapt, and it wants you to change with it as new information comes in. You might also find yourself reconnecting with health or fitness routines that you used to do before. So if you used to really like walking, you might reconnect with that. You might change your route. You might do a route you've done before, that sort of thing. You might go back to a type of diet that you have tried in the past to give it another go around with new information. All of those things are possible in this first chunk of the Mercury retrograde. Then from September 23rd till about October 16th, after that post-shadow period is done, Mercury will be in your 5th house retrograde. And this is a time in which you could connect with old romantic partners or hear from them or reach out or be thinking about those things and reevaluating what they meant to you. You might notice that you are reconnecting with old passions that you've had before. You might notice that if you're an entrepreneur, you run any kind of creative business or project, that those things are impacted and need to be redone or revisited to revise the details and make sure that it's in harmony with what you want for the future and that it looks really good. And you may also notice some increased retrograde energy in your children's lives because the 5th house is for children. So you might notice any of the things that I just mentioned or retrograde type of activities happening with your kids. So their school bus route changes or their class trip gets moved around or delayed. That sort of thing could be happening in your children's lives. For Gemini, Mercury retrograde is transiting your 5th house and your 4th house in Libra and Gemini. In the first half, from about August 20th all the way till about September 23rd, Mercury is going to be in your 5th house, and this will have you pondering old passions that you used to have, thinking about things that you used to do for fun and considering reconnecting with some of those things. I am a Gemini rising, and I have been thinking about dancing a lot. I used to dance since I could walk all the way till about 15 years old, and I've been watching a lot of old ballet videos and thinking about finding a studio here again. This is a period in time in which you might find yourself thinking about things that you used to do for fun or that you really used to enjoy, so that you can consider whether or not you want to reconnect with those things. You might also be thinking about old romantic relationships that you've had. You might get some contact from old relationships. You might find yourself reevaluating your own personal romantic relationships right now and deciding how you can put those things in a better place to be more fair and reciprocal and balanced, and assess whether or not you really want that for the future and how to move forward. You might find yourself changing your aesthetic to be more romantic, and you might, if you have children, you might also notice any of these effects happening in your children's lives, especially the general ones that I gave in the intro. Then, from about September 23rd till October 16th, in that second half of the retrograde energy, Mercury will be in your 4th house. This is about reconnecting with the past, reconnecting with your parents, understanding more and learning more information about your ancestry and where you come from and your heritage. This could be about reorganizing and decluttering your home. It could be about redoing a project at home or a renovation at home. It could be about property that you're trying to acquire and having some kinds of renegotiation there, having some kind of delay or miscommunication with those things. And this could also be about miscommunication with your family members that leads to some kind of friction, criticism, and needing to get into better alignment, probably over small details. So this is a lot about trying to make home life feel much more in balance for you, both in terms of relationship and the aesthetic of the environment. Now for Cancer. Mercury retrograde is first transiting your 4th house in the sign of Libra, and then later your 3rd house in the sign of Virgo. In this first half here, from about August 20th till September 23rd, we're in the 4th house of Libra, where you may find yourself really having the impulse to reconnect with family, reconnect with your parents, reconnect with people from your close, intimate circle that you have maybe not been spending as much time with, that you would really like to reconnect with. This could also be about miscommunication in your family, in your immediate family, or with your parents. This could be redoing a project at home, a renovation, reorganizing things to make them more beautiful and harmonious, getting things in order, decluttering, and reorganizing the house is all possible around this time too. This could also be about property and deals and agreements that you have for real estate that get replanned, let's say, or deals fall through or renegotiated. And this is in general about your emotional security as well. So going back to the past so that you can learn from areas in time where things maybe didn't feel so fair in your family connections, or where you've harbored a lot of guilt or a tendency to people please, and figure out how you can make your relationships more reciprocal going forward. Then from September 23rd till about October 16th, Mercury will retrograde that third house, Virgo. And this is a lot about general miscommunications in all types of project work, business work, people in your community, getting dates wrong, reading things incorrectly, schedules mishap, snafus with your siblings, things like that could be possible. And this could also be interruptions or delays or changes to plans that you have for trips or travel. And this may also be problems with your car or needing to deal with anything travel related there. Could also be about returning to study something that you used to study a lot, because maybe you've forgotten some of the details and you need to make sure that you're up to snuff when it comes to a topic that you are familiar with from the past. So for Leo, Mercury retrograde is transiting your third house, Libra, and then later your second house, Virgo. So starting on about August 20th all the way up till September 23rd, you've got Mercury in the third house, Libra, where you might find yourself having more car trouble, transportation delays, or changes to trips that you have for travel. You might find yourself going back to study information that you were familiar with from the past so that you can make sure that you don't leave out anything from before. You may be renegotiating and re-evaluating how you show up in your family relationships, like with siblings or extended family, or if you're connecting with teachers or you have any kind of courses that you're studying, those people can be impacted by this energy too. Thinking about what would be fair and reciprocal. How do I exchange my energy here for teaching this person this thing, or for learning from this person this topic? That kind of thing can come up. Really, a lot of this is also about business deals, and those things can fall through or be renegotiated, so it's important to read the fine print to understand what you get into now, especially if you start anything here. So then from September 23rd till about October 16th, you're going to have Mercury in the second house, Virgo. This is the financial sphere of life. So sometimes what you can see is bills from the past come back around that maybe you didn't realize were there. You may suddenly have a charge for something that you weren't expecting or planning for. You may also, in some cases, get some money from the past. Like maybe this is an energy that could definitely be a situation where maybe like you overpaid the dentist and they send you a check back. That kind of thing can happen too. So it's not just financial loss, it could be financial gain where something is coming from the past because details weren't correct or something like that. This is also about like diets and nutrition. So you might reconnect with an old way of eating or a diet that you've tried before to do it in a new way and really perfect your approach. To some degree, the second house is also how we think about ourselves and our confidence and self-reliance. So you might be thinking about relationships that you've had and how they may have been unfair, and how you can gain back more of your confidence in regards to those relationships, and deciding whether or not you want to proceed forward in those relationships, and what were the details that were off that were maybe making you feel less independent than you would like to. So for Virgo, first Mercury is retrograding in your second house, Libra, from about August 20th till about September 23rd. The second house is the sphere of finances. So this is about having a bill that you didn't realize you had before that now comes around that you have to pay, or you overpaid someone in the past, so they come and give you money back. And this is also about maybe making money from something that you used to do in the past. So if you used to run a side hustle, starting that again. If you did something for somebody in the past and then suddenly they decide to give you some extra money for it, that could be the case here and now. Something that you forgot about usually is what will reemerge here during Mercury retrograde in the second house. And this is also about food and nutrition and resources. So you might also be thinking about renegotiating your financial resources with a partner or another person. And you may also be thinking about trying a diet or a way of eating that you used to do before, and now that you're coming back to for aesthetic or health reasons. Then from about September 23rd to October 16th, Mercury is going to retrograde in your first house, and this kind of affects your whole life. So you might find that you have to redo work. You're generally replanning what you want to do for the future based on the clarity that you received or the way that money has shifted around from the earlier part of this retrograde. This is really the whole sphere of life can light up. So, problems with your car, problems with travel plans, problems with, I shouldn't say problems all the time. This is also about you replanning of your own free will to redo something in a better way or to improve upon something because you have new clarities and insights from it, seeing it in a different way from this Mercury retrograde. So it could come up in career, could come up in relationships, could come up with health, plans for the future, travel, any of those things, business deals can all be impacted when Mercury retrogrades in your first house. So for Libra, Mercury is retrograding in your sign, the first house, from August 20th till about September 23rd. This is an energy of reevaluating relationships in the past, dreaming about relationships that you had from the past, being contacted by relationships that you had in the past, or you contacting and reaching out of your own will. This could be about having to redo things at work, reorganize in the home, renegotiate and reevaluate your current relationships to make sure that they're reciprocal and balanced. This could also be about redoing your style, dressing in a different way, wanting to redo your wardrobe, do your makeup differently. All of those things are possible with the first house. And then from about September 23rd till October 16th, you've got that retrograde energy affecting your 12th house. So this could be about like needing to sleep more or oversleeping and messing up your schedule. This could be about needing some more alone time and trying to figure out how you're going to plan to get that. This could be about alone time that you had scheduled getting interrupted, vacation plans or downtime that you had changing. This could be about having strange dreams about the past or people reaching out from the past. One thing I should say is this could also be about revisiting some spiritual practices that you've done in the past that were beneficial to you that maybe you've fallen away from, so like a yoga or meditation practice. And this could also be about feeling a little chaotic and then reintroducing or reacquainting yourself with some maybe escapist self-sabotaging behaviors that you've had in the past as well. So any indulgences or addictions could also resurface around this time. So for Scorpio, Mercury retrograde is happening in your 12th house. This is an energy of, well, first I'll give you the dates. It's going to be from about August 20th till September 23rd that you feel the influence of Mercury retrograding in the 12th house. This could be about needing to sleep a little bit more, having dreams about the past, places from the past, people from the past literally reaching out to you in your life, not just in your dreams. This could also be about finding yourself getting sick or injured from something that you've dealt with in the past that you then have to heal through again. This could be about reconnecting with a spiritual practice that you used to do that has since fallen away, that you are interested in doing once more so that you can feel more peaceful, so like a meditation or yoga practice. This could also be about vacation plans getting changed around or interrupted or delayed. This could also be about old indulgences or escapist self-sabotaging behaviors resurfacing as well. And then the second half of the retrograde from about September 23rd till August 16th, you'll be feeling this more in your 11th house, which is about your social circles. So this could be about connecting with old friends that you haven't seen in a while or people from the past reaching out to you in a pleasant way, maybe not so much a surprising way, but just friends that you've had that nothing happened, but you're just trying to make plans with them. It could also be that you have plans to connect with friends or go to parties or some kind of events, and those things get delayed or interrupted. 11th house is also the house of reward. So if you're expecting some kind of raise, those things can get pushed back. You might also find that with this energy, your plans for the future you're reevaluating, especially as a result of relationship changes and renegotiations that you've done or clarity that you've gained as part of the earlier retrograde. That 11th house is often about like, what's my 10-year plan and what's this long-term future look like for me? And you might kind of replan those things out so that they can be better for you. So for Sagittarius, the energy of the retrograde in Libra and Virgo is happening in your 11th and 10th house. So from the pre-shadow period on August 20th all the way till about September 23rd, you might notice that you are looking to connect with old friends or social circles that you've been a part of before. You might find yourself getting contacted from social circles or friends that you've had in the past. If you have plans, social events planned, those things can get interrupted. You might also find yourself reevaluating the kinds of friends that you have in your life and thinking about what a reciprocal friendship or connection really feels like. If you have any kind of social media activity, you might reevaluate your profile. What do you really want to share online and what you don't, and what looks good and what kind of aesthetic, that kind of thing. Then your 10th house from about September 23rd till October 16th, you could be redoing projects at work, your plans or schedule at work, contracts at work, agreements that you've had at work are all being renegotiated. That kind of thing can happen. You might find yourself also having to redo work that you've done before in the past, or having some kind of miscommunication with figures of authority at work. Or generally just project work getting delayed and messed up. Now for Capricorn, the energy of the retrograde is happening in your 10th and your 9th house. So first, from August 20th till about September 23rd, you'll feel the Mercury retrograde energy in the 10th house sphere of life. So this is about having to redo work that you've done before. Maybe you did a project in the past for work that you're now having to engage those skills again. Maybe you have been planning some activity or making some deals or agreements with people at work and partnering to go forward in a certain way, and now all of this is being reevaluated, or you have to redo it, or it gets delayed. This could be about getting in some kind of disagreement with figures of authority or people that you work with closely one-to-one. If you're in some type of line of work where you work with people one-to-one, then you might have trouble planning. You might have interruptions or delays, contracts falling through, that sort of thing. You might reevaluate what would really be fair in terms of negotiations for work and career. And then the overall direction of your life too, and how you feel about that, because it's kind of like, what do you want to be known for with the 10th house? If you don't have work, or you don't have a career, or maybe you're retired, and I'm saying this because my Capricorn mom watches these videos and she's retired. So how does this apply if you're retired? Well, if you have skill sets that you used before in your career, even when you're retired, someone might call on you to ask for you to use those skills. You might have to bring that knowledge back from the past, or you might find yourself reconnecting with a colleague from work and even just going to get a chat with them, even if you're no longer in the field. Those are possibilities while Mercury retrogrades in the 10th house. Then when it moves into the 9th house from about September 23rd till October 16th, this is all about reevaluating beliefs, ideals, relationship with God, maybe reconnecting with some spiritual truth that you knew about before but had forgotten, connecting with a teacher from the past on any topic, or also reevaluating your ideas about commitment. What kind of commitments do you want to keep and make, both to other people, to second marriages, to important long-lasting things in your life? Where are you out of balance with those things, and how can those things be more fair and reciprocal? That's what the Mercury retrograde will do in that 9th house. 9th house is also about travel and trips, so you might change your plans, find that there's some delays or interruptions to plans that you have, or if you're involved in any type of like foreign affairs or agreements, trying to get a visa, trying to move here, trying to do that, do this trip, that thing, all of that stuff can get kind of delayed with Mercury retrograde in the 9th house. All right, now for Aquarius, the Mercury retrograde is happening in your 9th house from about August 20th till September 23rd. You'll feel this energy from pre-shadow all the way till it moves into Virgo. This is about travel plans and trips getting delayed and interrupted. That's what the 9th house is about. Things taking longer to get where you're going than you thought, or having to push a trip back. If you're involved in any kind of foreign affairs or agreements, or trying to get a visa, those things can be delayed, or you might need to renegotiate some of your paperwork or deals or agreements that you have. Ninth house is also about commitment, so you might find yourself rethinking and reevaluating where you have long-term commitments to people specifically. You could be reconnecting with a teacher from the past on any topic. You may find yourself returning to study something that you did study in the past, or you may find yourself, I think that's it actually. That's it for the ninth house. And then when Mercury moves from September 23rd through October 16th in your eighth house, this is an energy of thinking about traumas from the past, thinking about wounds from the past, addressing things that have really hurt you in the past so that you can make them right. It's reflecting them, going to therapy, talking about the past in therapy. It could be about doing some kind of somatic healing work, those things, revisiting the past in general. The eighth house is also about joint finances and financial affairs in general. So you might be reevaluating what would be a fair agreement with you and your partner, or with you and a bank, or with you and someone who's giving you a loan, renegotiating financial terms for things, getting your financial plans in order. This is also about debt. So you might be refinancing debt. You might also get a fine or a fee from the past because maybe you forgot to pay a bill. This could happen a lot with the eighth house Mercury retrograde. I remember one time I got a ticket during this time, a speeding ticket during this time. Speeding, Mercury, travel, car, fine, fee, eighth house. So that can happen. So slow down, especially with Mars and Gemini. Anyway, eighth house is also about occult topics. So if you were into those things before, you might reconnect with practices from the past in that regard. And to some degree, the eighth house also represents sex and intimacy. So you could find yourself redoing things from the past in that regard. And I'll let you make of that what you will. All right. So now for Pisces. Pisces, Mercury is retrograding in your eighth house and your seventh house. So from about October 20th all the way till September 23rd, you are going to notice that eighth house energy. So when Mercury retrogrades in the eighth house, you will find yourself revisiting past traumas, perhaps around death or manipulation or abuse in your life, and thinking about those things, thinking about your issues with control or when people are trying to control you, and kind of reevaluating those things so that you can come to a place of deeper peace, especially if it involves you and another person that's currently present in your life, or a relationship that you had that was really, really close. And so you might also find that those people, if they're still around, could come back to your life, and then you have to decide how you want to move forward with them. This could also be about the financial sphere of life, because the eighth house is also about joint finances. So this could be about renegotiating financial terms that you have with your partner, that you have with a bank, that you have with somebody that's giving you a loan or managing your debt. You might refinance the terms or redo your plans for your finances. This could also be about getting a ticket. I remember one time I had Mercury retrograding in the eighth house, and I got a speeding ticket. Mercury having to do with transportation and cars and travel, and the eighth house having to do with taxes, fines, and fees. So I got a speeding ticket, and that's probably really likely during this time because Mars, which is all about fastness, is in the sign of Gemini. So watch out for that. The eighth house is also about occult. So if you had an interest in an occult topic, you might find yourself studying the past history of an occult topic during this time with Mercury retrograde in the eighth house. And in general, just trying to understand how you want to rebalance your relationships so that they feel deeper and more nourishing and more intimate, and while still being respectful and reciprocal. And then when Mercury retrogrades in your seventh house from the September 23rd all the way to the October 16th period, you're going to feel this even more when it comes to your present one-to-one relationships. So you might be evaluating or rethinking close relationships. What are the kind of friendships I want to have in my life? How am I feeling about my romantic relationships from the past or present in the future right now? You might find your partner doing the same thing. Your partner might change their aesthetic. Your partner might change the way that they present themselves or the way that they look. You might find yourself having to figure out how to negotiate in your partnership in a new way because people's needs and wants have changed, and there could be some kind of miscommunication or disagreement. You could find yourself re-encountering connections from the past, either because you initiate them or because people come to you, and you have to figure out what you want to do from there. And this could also affect business deals, agreements, and contracts. So you could find yourself facing deals that have fallen through, having to rebalance those things, rewrite up contracts, replan for things, make new agreements. That kind of thing can happen with Mercury retrograde in the 7th house. Alrighty, so I believe that I have said Mercury retrograde in this video so many times that it feels like my tongue is in a knot, and I am very tired of talking about it now. So I hope this video was helpful for you and that you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments what kind of Mercury retrograde things are happening to you. I'm already getting tons of comments from people in my personal life. Like, everybody's got the car stuff happening, and I had a trip that I booked an Airbnb for several weeks ago that literally the day Mercury retrograded, the host told me that we can't do the Airbnb anymore because he had to close it down from some HOA rule. So that's again about contracts and agreements and things that you sign up for. And it's about travel trips and plans, and all of that went haywire and we had to rebook a different place. So it's live and well this time around. But ultimately, when it moves from an air sign to an earth sign, it helps us take our ideas and put them into practical action. So try to go with the flow and be mutable like Mercury. And I hope you can make the best out of this retrograde season. And I will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching with Energy.